Perhaps the most active news day of the year for the Houston Texans ends with CJ Stroud on the injury report. What matters most? What matters least? Where did the Texans go from here? And we'll hear from DeMeco Ryans himself as well as you. Let's go inside the locker room.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do.
Man, what a day. Goodness gracious. It is the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 Central, Sports Radio 610, and the Odyssey app. Man, there was a lot. This was a rip the run sheet day for the Texans. There was news all over the place, but you can't complain because it's relevant football, and it's just kind of part of the game. We'll hear from DeMeco Ryans. We'll get into all of the most relevant news, and we'll hear from you as well. Just leave the comment. Be sure to subscribe, like, right along, whatever you want to do. This is the place to come, whether you're a Texans fan or not, for the pulse of what's going on with the Texans. We'll get to the CJ Stroud appearing on the injury report in a second. But let's first start with the first piece of news that we got, and it's another injury on the offensive line, and it is a season-ending injury. This news broke this morning. You didn't know how bad the injury was, but you knew it was at least something. Titus Howard is going to be out for the season. Who knows if he's going to be ready for camp next year. Got to anticipate that the next time we see Titus Howard, he's at tackle. Just the amount of bodies on the interior is just going to increase. Jared Patterson should be back. I don't know if Scott Questenberry is going to be back. Kendrick Green will likely be back. Kenyon Green will be back. You'll still have Shaq Mason. Juice Scruggs will be back. So naturally, you paid Titus Howard all that money, top 5 right tackle. He's going to go back to right tackle. And hopefully we don't have to watch him play guard again. How big is this injury? If they were going to move him back to right tackle, I would say significant. You always want as many bodies as possible on the offensive line. But, I mean, we have not really – we've spoken all year about how frustrating it was at times to watch Titus Howard at guard. He's graded out as one of the worst players on the team at the position, and it's not his natural position. Good for him for doing what they asked him to do, but I mean, it was a struggle. Even before he got hurt, it was a struggle. So if you told me that Titus Howard was just going to be a guard all season long, like how much does this impact the Texans? I don't know how much. Maybe more than I think, but I just don't see it as like a huge thing because he wasn't very good at guard. And I think Juice Scruggs is potentially someone that they can build with. Now, maybe they would have liked to move Juice Scruggs into center and then put Titus at guard. Maybe with some of the news that we got on the injury report, he was going to be at right tackle. Who knows? But Titus Howard, the injury from like an on-field thing, they've won without virtually all the offensive linemen. He wasn't playing that well at guard. Hopefully they get him back at tackle, and hopefully he justifies the money in which they gave him. So best of luck to Titus Howard. I'm happy for him that he got his extension. Do I think it's going to look good for the Texans down the line? I have reason to wonder, but I'm happy for him that, in a contract year, he didn't tear his ACL and he's not having to rehab. So that's good for Titus Howard. Austin says it's not 10:30. Because of the Rockets game, I'm going a little bit earlier. I'm going to peep the Rockets versus the Nuggets. So doing that a little bit more. And I do wonder, how this extension is going to look. But from an on-field perspective, if they lose Titus Howard, the guard, I think they'll be able to to figure things out. It is a locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. We're reacting to all the news of the day from the Texans. Check me out on Sports Radio 610, also the Odyssey app, Twitch, YouTube. We're going to have another exclusive interview with the player off the practice field tomorrow. It's not going to be Shaq Griffin. Shaq Griffin was released. This was before the show as well. We were laying it out. The Titus Howard stuff had dropped, and got the news that Shaq was going to be released. I think the Starbucks baby had it first, Jordan Schultz. But yeah, Shaq Griffin is going to he's released. He's gone. Hasn't played at least I think I saw John Crumpler of Texans Wire say hasn't played a defensive snap the last 2 weeks. Hasn't really been much in the rotation. Derek Stingley's back, so he's on the field, so that would make sense. Shaq Griffin's on the streets. This is the thing about this one. I understand, assuming that the corners are going to be healthy, I understand releasing Shaq Griffin because he wasn't getting on the field. He was just playing special teams. So I can understand the move. I will say this, though. It's somewhat encouraging to see the Texans release guys that actually contributed because they think there are better options. Because make no mistake about it, is Shaq Griffin the Pro Bowl quality player that he was in Seattle? No. Is he better than Derek Stingley? No. Is he better than Steven Nelson? No. So when they're on the field, there's a chance he's not going to play. But when Stingley was out, he battled his ass off. Was he great? He was serviceable. He had the big interception against Joe Burrow in the Cincinnati Bengals. And when you have Derek Stingley, you wonder, do you need more corner depth? And I'm sure they can call Shaq Griffin if something does happen. I'll knock on wood for that. But a guy that contributed this year, a guy that was there and partook in that DeMeco Ryans next man up thing, which we might hear him say when we go to the podium and hear what DeMeco had to say. Shaq Griffin, more power to him and more power to the Texans. Now, I threw this out there earlier today. Marcus Peters is on the streets. I know Marcus Peters struggled tackling, but if Marcus Peters, if they could bring him in this locker room, he also might be the only guy in the world that hates Sean Payton as much as I do. That's a little bit of a dog right there. That's a sign up for a playoff chase type of guy. He's not a rebuild, lost season type of guy like he was with the like the situation the Raiders were in, and similar situations to what the Texans were in, except Texans probably much worse the last few years. But I like Marcus Peters. I like the option of Marcus Peters if he buys in and comes in. But I would assume that if something happened, perhaps Shaq Griffin gets another call, or Desmond King could be a guy that steps up on the outside, which was what he did last year. Des King last year, and I said this was his value. Desmond King, for all the talk about him being like an inside guy, he actually filled in nicely on the outside last year when you were without Stingley. And Des King, he's going to step up, and his role is significantly increased. He was signed to the active roster, so he essentially is the guy that came in for Shaq Griffin. Now, if you don't have Stingley and you don't have Steven Nelson, do you feel comfortable putting King on the outside like you did last year? Maybe you're a little bit more comfortable doing that when you're in the situation the Texans were last year as opposed to where they're at right now. But who knows? Des King signed to the active roster. So good for Des King. You get released. Then you get released by Pittsburgh. You come back. You immediately make a play. You stay hot and ready. And there you go. Probably going to get some reps. So that's the other piece of news. Kicking news. Matt Amendola. Aaron Wilson was on top of this. Shout out to A-Dub. Matt Amendola, kicker who missed the 50 and 58-yarder against Jacksonville. Matt Amendola signed to the practice squad. So I'm sure he'll get elevated, and He'll kick. Now, how long will that last? Don't know. Fairbairn will at least be eligible to kick after this game. Whether or not that will happen, to be determined based on how injured he is. Who knows? Practice news. So we have the signings, we have the season-ending injury. Practice news. Noah Brown, one of the best receivers in football, the 3 weeks before he got hurt. Noah Brown returned to practice, which is really good news, especially good news because Tank Dell did not practice. Tank Dell has a thigh. We'll hear what DeMeco Ryans had to say about that shortly. But this just seems like a theme for the Texans. You had Noah Brown go on IR at the beginning of the season. You had Tank Dell get the concussion. You had Nico Collins miss games. Like, they just cannot get the band together when it comes to the receivers. Good news is the other guys have stepped up, but just when you think you're going to get them back, there's at least a little bit of, I don't want to call it a setback, but there's at least like a kick to the junk to where Tank Dell doesn't practice today. Now, DeMeco said he should be all right. We'll see. But I don't think we anticipated the thigh injury would take Dell. So that's the bad news. The good news is you get Noah Brown. I don't know. Are y'all good news first or bad news first type of people? I can go either way on that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about the right order. Good news or bad news first. Other practice news, Jimmy Ward. Initially, people thought he was actually practicing. He was apparently moving around a little bit more, but he did not practice. He was listed as DNP. Got to think he's getting closer. How close? Who knows? They damn sure could use him in that secondary. But Jimmy Ward doesn't practice. Tomorrow will be a big day for him. If we see him out there, even limited, then maybe he could be trending in the right direction. George Fant doesn't practice. Could be a rest day. Laramie Tunsil and Robert Woods had rest days. But if you're without George Fant, if you're without your right tackle, that's where you really could have used Titus Howard. That's probably where you miss Titus Howard more. Even more because you could throw him over there. I think he's better than Fant. They think, or do they? I don't even know. But George Fant doesn't practice, so hopefully you don't have to shuffle the offensive line too much more. Although Charlie Heck was he's activated and he should be ready to go. I feel like Charlie Heck's been like ready to go for like 4 years now, where you always get the random Charlie Heck start. So it would only be appropriate. I agree with John. Jimmy Ward is a big part of things, for sure. There's no doubt about that. Other DNPs did not practice. Dalton Schultz, Sheldon Rankins. The Schultz thing might make sense. We saw a lot of Brevin Jordan in the fourth quarter. Even saw him make the catch on third down. Dalton Schultz has a soft tissue injury. I would keep a real close eye on Dalton Schultz. If he doesn't practice tomorrow, we could be leaning towards Brevin Jordan season. Sheldon Rankins kind of had a bad game the other day. Maybe that would kind of explain it. I think it was an arm or something like that for him. Robert Woods, he didn't practice. He's been getting Wednesdays off all year long, kind of the veteran type of thing. Same thing with Laramie Tunsil, although some would say he had Sunday off too. Oh, how many days off does Laramie Tunsil need? Just kidding. Kinda. But yeah, Laramie Tunsil gets Wednesday off. Malik Collins, he's out. It's a non-injury personal thing, so he's taking care of some things. So we'll see if Malik Collins comes back or not. So those are the guys. But the most surprising name, and it was right there on the bottom of this injury report. Before we hear from DeMeco Ryans, I kind of want to touch on this because we've seen him there before. Last time seemed a little bit more serious than this time. But CJ Stroud listed on the injury report with an injured thigh. Now, CJ Stroud has shown us, and he showed us very early behind an offensive line that had 4 starters out, that if he can go, he's going to go. If he has to get to the and I think it kind of set the tone for the team against Indianapolis. But if he has to get to the stadium early, get work done, he's going to go. Now, they said he participated, and it doesn't seem to be too serious. So I don't think his status is like in doubt, but they did put a thigh injury of CJ Stroud on the injury report. Now, I don't want to overreact to this, but I do think that the way in which CJ Stroud had to play on Sunday, whether it was his own doing, whether it was because of the offensive line, whatever it was, I do feel like that's a lot of running, and that's a lot to ask of your quarterback. Like, it seemed like between every play, he was just trying to catch his breath a lot. So while we can say, and it's always easy for dumbasses like me to say, oh, it's not too serious. When we're saying that, we're just saying they might be on, they're going to be on the field. And that's the mindset a lot of players have, CJ Stroud specifically. So obviously, if we had the thigh injury he had, who knows what we do? We'd probably go to the doctor and get some prescription pills or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what the hell we would do, but they're a lot tougher than we are. But if he's going to have to play like that, if he's going to have to do and run around and create plays and use his legs as much as he did on Sunday, if that is going to be the norm for the final 6 games of the season, then it's hard for me to imagine that thigh injury gets better, the lower body injury. So hopefully they're able, and we'll hear from Bobby Slowick tomorrow. Hopefully they're able to play a little bit more on script instead of off script. And I think DJ Bieneme was breaking that down a little bit. He asked DeMeco about it. And we'll hear from DeMeco in a second. But yeah, not a big injury, but yeah, I don't want to see him playing like that. That's a lot of running. And yeah, there was a lot going on there with CJ having to extend plays with his legs. Let's hear from DeMeco Ryans. Be sure to subscribe, like the video right along. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. Normally we get this going at 10:30. Today we got the Rockets game, so Rockets are fun to watch lately. So we're gonna adjust accordingly. Here is DeMeco Ryans live earlier today at NRG addressing the media types.
Yeah, Titus has done a good job of battling through. Appreciate Titus's toughness and trying to push through and play, through some difficult injuries there. Titus is a fighter. Appreciate him, and he did a good job for us. But as we've been throughout this entire year, as we've done this next man up, we still have to shuffle some guys around there, but our O-line has done a really good job of unfortunately, we've had to deal with this before, but we've done a good job of shuffling things around, and the guys just working well together as a unit. And for me, it's always whoever steps in, can you just play to the best of your ability, all right? And the other 10 guys play well around you, we'll make it work.
How much do you anticipate he'll be ready for the start of offseason, or do you feel like
Yeah, we'll see. We're still gathering information. We'll see, that timeline of when he'll be ready to go next year.
Just overall in general, if any, how much does this actually weigh on the team, this being another unfortunate injury?
It does not weigh on our team, right? It's part of football, right? You lose guys. Guys get injured all the time, all right? We don't focus on or harp on. We feel for our brother who's went down, but we still have to move forward. We still have to go and compete and play our best.
What have you seen from the Broncos in these last 5 games that has allowed them to turn their season around?
The biggest thing I've seen from the Broncos and how they've turned things around is how their defense is attacking the football. Right? When when you take the ball away as many times as they had, I think they have over, 13, 14 turnovers. When you do that, right, you set the offense up, you set the team up, for success. And that's where it starts with these guys. Vance has done a really good job, right, of coaching his defense, getting those guys ready to play. They fly around, they're physical, they attack the football. And when it comes to the running game on their offensive side, that's where I feel like their strengths are. They've done a really good job. They have 3 backs who, all 3 guys, right, are really good players, right? They run the ball physical. That's what sticks out to me the most. They're physical players. They run the ball really well. They're dynamic. And however they get the ball, whether it's check downs, whether it's bounce scheme, outside zone, like they all do a really good job. And the O-line has done a good job playing together, right, creating some running lanes for those guys.
Yeah, and it is all about turning over the rock. And they've added 6 points. Like their defensive totals, like the yardage, everything is worse. Although they're taking the ball away more, and they've added 6 points to their points per game. That's been the biggest key for the turnaround with Denver.
Yeah, we'll see how the week continues to go for Tank. We expect him to be okay. Our opponent.
A lot of sim pressures. What challenges does their sim pressure package present for you guys?
With their pressure package, again, they're varied in their pressures. They'll throw different things at us. Always still is about us, right, and how we operate efficiently, making sure we're going through our progression the proper way, making sure we're blocking it correctly up front, and giving the CJ time to operate, receivers running their routes with precision, everybody just being on the same page, right? We feel that no matter what they throw at us, if we execute and we're on the same page, we'll be just fine. We'll be able to move the football. And for Russell, I think it starts with the run game, right? Him having a run game, and that's helped them out a lot. Russell still does a really good job there. Throws one of the best deep balls in the league, so we have to be prepared there when they do take their shots. But it's also, if it's not there, he's being smart with the football, right? He's getting the ball to his check down, getting it to his second or third read, and allowing them to continue drives, right? And I think he's playing really smart football right now. Then on third down, as Russell has done his entire career, how he's hurt many teams, it's just him and his scramble ability on third down, right, to create first downs, to sustain drives. He still has it, and he's still a problem when it comes to scrambling around the pocket. Execute as defensively to make sure we're tight with our communication. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody's accounted for, and then we'll have a really good battle where we make them have to earn every yard that they get.
Denzel back, what that does for your defense, and how just glad you're having back.
Yeah, excited to get Denzel back. Denzel is he's been a physical force for us when he's in there, and definitely need him this week. Playing against the Broncos, they're a physical unit. So Denzel being back, I think it really helps our defense.
My thing with Denzel is I wonder how he's going to play. Is he still going to be that mean-ass physical dude, or is he going to tone it down because of, the suspension and stuff? I know Kareem went right back, Kareem Jackson, and we won't see him this week because he went right back to his way. I just don't think Denzel Perryman cannot play that way. So I think that'll be something really interesting to watch, assuming that Denzel is on the field. Is he going to play the same way? This is a locker room. We're listening to DeMeco Ryans. He's about to talk about Des King.
Dez did a good job of stepping in for us last week. Dez, just his mindset, as he's been back, has been whatever you want me to do, Coach. Right? And that's, I love a guy who has that mindset. He's willing to just help out in any way possible. So we'll see, how we can utilize him this week.
Coach, what went into the decision to release Shaq Griffin?
Yeah, with Shaq, Shaq has competed for us. Right, did a really good job for us. Respect Shaq for what he's done for us. As we said this time, just conversation with Shaq, wanted to give him an opportunity, all right, to catch on somewhere else to play.
With the other side of the football, the Broncos secondary, their talent, what do you see from that matchup with your passing game against that kind of secondary?
Their secondary is their strong suit on defense. You talk about the way they attack the ball. That's one aspect of it, but the other aspect is on third down, they play really tight man coverage, right? And they challenge the receivers. They do a really good job of being sticky, being disciplined, exactly where they're supposed to be, and that's going to be our challenge, right? Can we be there and have one of the top corners in the league and Surtain? He's done a really good job his entire career. It's going to be a tough challenge for us, but I think their secondary starts with the corners and the way they play coverage.
So from game to game, I think it's easy to see the strides that CJ makes, but I wondered from your perspective, seeing him, every minute of the day basically, do you see little improvements every time you're around him?
CJ is impressive because of his improvements, because of his growth, and he's grown in many areas since he's been here. And for me, it's really cool and impressive to see a rookie. Sometimes rookies, it takes them a while to figure it out, and he's been impressive to where if you give him a coaching point, he's a very coachable young man, right? He takes that coaching point to heart, and he goes out and shows that improvement, right, the next week. So when you have a guy who loves to be coached, a guy who loves to get better, right, every time he steps out on the field, it's easy to coach young men like that, and that's why CJ has had success, right, because of his willingness to prepare, his willingness to be coached, and his grind to continue to get better at everything that he does.
What do you remember about the process when you talked to the Broncos? Obviously, he ended up here in Houston. John talked to the Texans. He ended up in Denver. What do you remember about that process and ultimately when you ended up here with you?
Yeah, the Broncos with the Penner family, awesome organization. I think they're in really good hands. I really appreciate them for their opportunity, right, to sit down and talk with them about the head coaching opportunity. And ended up here with just it all worked out, right? I'm just thankful and blessed to just be in a position to have those conversations with the Broncos and for them thinking enough of me to bring me in, right, to have those conversations. Really appreciate Mr. Craig Penner and, all the people in the organization there for the Broncos. It's not many times you get the opportunity, so thankful for that. And, just happy to be here with the Texans.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, appreciate it.
There you go. It's DeMeco Ryans here in the locker room on YouTube. We'll get into a little bit more into what he said. I'll break down the CJ day tomorrow at the start of the day. I also have that exclusive interview. The other news, which became really became official yesterday, but officially official now. No flex versus the Jets. Just a perfect storm for the Texans. All the clues were there. The back chatter. They believed it was going to get flexed. Apparently, the NFL, I don't think they wanted to flex a Texans home game. Don't know why. But New York scheduled for noon on Sunday. There's a Monday night game scheduled at 7. At the time that we started talking about it, the Giants were dead. The Packers appeared to be dead. They're the matchup. Since then, the Giants have won 2 games. The Packers have shown some light. Texans lost. And the Jets continue to lose. So that's where we're at. It's not going to be flex. Now, for the people that were excited about the Monday night, I am a man of the people. I would have been happy for you. For me personally, I have a trip scheduled there, so I will get to go to the game now. So I'm excited about that. Actually going to Army Navy. We're going to be on Radio Row there. So the show will be live from Boston. The radio show will be live from Boston on Friday, and I guess the stream as well. And then on Saturday, we're on the field for Army Navy. In the second half, we get to go on the field. And then we got a flight from Boston to New York, about 45 minutes at 7 a.m. We're going to go tailgate, have some fun. Probably bring y'all some exclusive locker room audio after the ball game. And that's where we're going to be. So selfishly, I'm glad it didn't get flexed, but I do feel for people who, just want to see CJ Stroud and the Texans on that big stage. So that's where we're at. Little Jesus says DeMeco missed out on that Walmart money. I think he's doing just fine. He's making some bread for sure from the McNairs. Appreciate everyone for coming through. It's been a big day of news. Let's just recap it real quick. Titus Howard out for the season. We'll see how much of an impact that is. Hopefully George Fant's okay, so that you don't have to worry about that, and you're really just losing them at guard. Desmond King active on the active roster. Shaq Griffin gone. Cornerback depth. DeMeco said it was about him going to get more playing time somewhere else. CJ Stroud on the injury report. Is it a big deal? Don't know. It's lower body, though. He was moving around a lot the other day. And then Noah Brown back on the practice field. Jimmy Ward, not yet. A couple of veteran days off. We'll know tomorrow. Thursday is usually when you get a little bit more clarity and we start to panic. Oh, is this guy going to play? Which I absolutely love. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Subscribe, like, ride along. Best Texans coverage in the country. Listen to the show tomorrow, 10 Central, Odyssey app, Twitch, YouTube. Going to have a exclusive interview with the player off the field. We're also going to give out the Will You Do Something Bro Awards for this week at 10:20. Brandon Scott going to come through at 11. He was at practice. We'll get his takes. So it's a fun ride, playoff implications, a lot of news, heavy news day. Appreciate you for coming through. And always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Have a good night.
Game in the headlock, localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top two and we not too plugged in, daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways. If it's up, then it's up, we number one. You don't need to try your luck. Locker room, yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk, yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source, we the pulse of the city too.